The Great Hall of the Galactic Council was bigger than most cities. 47 different alien species sat in their special seats, all looking down at the center stage. The air was thick with tension. Everyone was angry, confused, and somewhere. Even Laughing Ambassador Zekthara stood in the middle of the hall. Her body looked like it was made of purple crystal, and when she moved, light danced across her surface. She was angry, very angry. Her voice echoed through the massive room when she spoke. "The humans have made fun of us all," she said, her voice getting louder. "When we sent out the challenge to settle who owns the Kepler 442 system, every smart species knew what to do. You send your best ships. You send your strongest fleets. You show your power." She turned around slowly, looking at all the different aliens in their seats. The Zephyrians sent 300 warships, beautiful ships that moved like dancing. Birds. The Corvan Empire sent their entire 5th Armada, 500 massive ships that could destroy planets. Even the peaceful Etherians, who hate fighting, sent 50 vessels. Zekthara paused and pointed toward a small section of the hall. And the humans? They sent one ship, just one. Many of the aliens started making noise. Some laughed. Others made angry sounds. A few just shook their heads. One ship against thousands? It was either very brave or very stupid. Far away from the council hall, Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of his ship. The USS Defiant was not the biggest ship in the human fleet, but it was special. Jake was 52 years old, with gray hair and tired eyes. He had been in space for 30 years, and he had seen many things. "Sir?" called Lieutenant Amy Rodriguez from her station. She was young, maybe 25, with dark hair pulled back tight. "We're getting another message from the Galactic Council. They want to know if we need backup ships." Jake smiled a little. "Tell them no, Amy. Tell them we're ready." Commander Lisa Park walked up to Jake. She was his second in command, a smart woman who always worried about details. "Captain, I've been looking at the numbers. We're going to face over 3,000 enemy ships. That's a lot of firepower." Jake looked out the big window at the front of the bridge. Stars filled the dark space around them. "Lisa, those aren't enemy ships. They're competition. And they're about to learn something important about humans." "What's that, sir?" "That we don't always need big numbers to win." Back in the council hall, other species were talking about the human choice. The Valtari had started this challenge, but now all the species were interested. This was about more than one star system. This was about showing who was strong and who was weak in the galaxy. The Corvan Ambassador, a huge creature with 4 arms and red skin, stood up. "Perhaps the humans don't understand the challenge. Maybe they think this is just a game." The Etherian representative, a floating ball of soft light, spoke in a musical voice. "Or maybe they know something we don't. Humans are strange, but they're not stupid." Zekthara's crystal body flashed brighter. "Strange? They're about to be destroyed. When our fleets meet theirs, there will be nothing left of their little ship." On the Defiant, Jake's crew worked at their stations. There were 200 humans on the ship, and each one had been chosen carefully. They were not just the best at their jobs. They were the best at thinking in new ways. Chief Engineer Bobby Klein called from the engine room. "Captain, all the new systems are working. The AI is running at 100%. Jake nodded. Ship's artificial intelligence was nicknamed Charlie by the crew. It wasn't like the computer systems other species used. Charlie could learn, think, and even make jokes. Combined with human creativity, it made the Defiant much more than just a ship. "Charlie," Jake said to the air, "are you ready for this?" Voice came from the speakers around the bridge. It sounded almost human, but not quite. "I am ready, Captain. Though I calculate our chances of success at only 67%. I've won fights with worse odds, Jake said. Dr. Corrine White, the ship's science officer, looked up from her instruments. She was a thin woman with blonde hair and very smart eyes. Captain, I'm reading massive energy signatures from the other fleets. Some of these ships are as big as cities. Size isn't everything, Karen, Jake replied. Sometimes the smallest key can open the biggest door. Lieutenant Rodriguez turned around in her chair. Sir, the Council is asking all fleets to move to the starting position. The first test begins in 2 hours. Jake looked around at his crew. These men and women were the best humanity had to offer. They were smart, brave, and most importantly, they could think differently than anyone else in the galaxy. All right, everyone, Jake said, let's show them what humans can do. Navigator Helen Carter, a red-headed woman with quick hands, started plotting their course. Sir, where exactly are we going? Into history, Helen. Into history. The Defiant began to move toward the test area. Behind them, thousands of alien ships followed. Some were sleek and fast. Others were huge and covered with weapons. A few looked like they were made of crystal or energy, but none of them looked like the Defiant. The human ship was dark gray, with smooth lines and no extra decorations. It looked simple, almost plain. The aliens who saw it thought it looked weak. They were about to learn how wrong they were as the fleets moved through space. Jake thought about Earth. His home planet was small and far away, but it had taught humanity important lessons. Humans learned to survive, not by being the strongest, but by being the smartest. They learned to win, not by having the most weapons, but by using their weapons better. Sir, Commander Park said quietly, do you really think we can do this? Jake smiled. Lisa, we're not just representing Earth today. We are representing the human spirit, and that spirit has never backed down from a challenge. The galaxy was about to learn why humanity had sent only one ship. It was about to learn that sometimes one was enough. The Helix Nebula was one of the most beautiful places in the galaxy. Clouds of colorful gas swirled around like a giant rainbow in space. But today, it was turned into a battlefield. The Galactic Council had filled the nebula with thousands of fake asteroids. Computer-controlled enemy ships hid behind them. The test was simple. Get through the nebula, destroy the fake enemies, and reach the other side. The fastest fleet with the fewest losses would win. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the Defiant, watching as the other fleets prepared for the test. Through the big window, he could see ships everywhere. Some were so big, they looked like flying cities. Others moved in perfect groups, like schools of fish made of metal. Look at that, said Commander Lisa Park, pointing to the Zephyrian fleet. 300 ships moving like they're dancing. The Zephyrian ships were beautiful. They looked like silver birds with long, graceful wings. They moved together so perfectly, it seemed like they were controlled by one mind. When they turned, they all turned at exactly the same time. When they sped up, they all sped up together. And there's the Corvin Empire, added Lieutenant Amy Rodriguez. Those ships are huge. The Corvin ships were the opposite of the Zephyrian ones. They were dark, heavy, and covered with weapons. Each one was as big as a small moon. They moved slowly but steadily, like a wall of metal and death, rolling through space. Dr. Karen White looked at her instruments. Captain, I'm reading energy signatures from ships I've never seen before. Some of these species have technology we can't even understand. Jake nodded. That's okay, Karen. We don't need to understand their technology. We just need to be better than them. The test began with a loud signal that echoed through space. Immediately, thousands of ships rushed into the nebula. The Zephyrian fleet spread out like a net, covering every angle. The Corvin ships formed. a straight line, and started blasting everything in their path. Other species used their own tactics. The Etherians sent waves of light that confused the fake enemies. The Mantis Collective used ships that could change shape. The crystal beings fired beams of pure energy that could cut through anything. For 30 minutes, the alien fleets fought their way through the nebula. Explosions lit up the colorful gas clouds. Laser beams crossed back and forth like deadly light shows. The fake asteroids were blasted into tiny pieces. Then it was humanity's turn. The USS Defiant appeared at the edge of the nebula. Compared to the massive fleets that had gone before, it looked like a tiny bug. The aliens watching from the council ships started laughing. Some made bets about how quickly the human ship would be destroyed. "Begin your test, humans," came the voice of the council overseer. Jake looked around at his crew. "Charlie, are you ready?" "All systems ready, Captain," came the EIS voice from the speakers. "I have analyzed the performance of all previous fleets. I believe I can do better. That's what I wanted to hear. Helen, take us in." Navigator Helen Carter's hands moved over her controls. "Yes, sir. Here we go." What happened next made the watching aliens stop laughing. The Defiant didn't charge into the nebula like the other ships. It didn't spread out or form attack lines. Instead, it seemed to dance. The ship moved between the fake asteroids like it was flowing water. When laser beams shot at it, the Defiant wasn't there anymore. It twisted and turned in ways that seemed impossible. It was like watching a leaf blow in the wind, but the leaf was made of metal and could fight back. "How are they doing that?" asked the Zephyrian commander, watching from his flagship. "Their ship is too small," said the Corvin admiral. "It can't have enough power for those kinds of moves." They were wrong. The Defiant had something none of their ships had. Charlie. The AI was learning from every second of the test. It watched how the fake enemies moved, how they thought, how they attacked. And it told the human crew exactly where to go and what to do. "Charlie," said Jake, "what's the best way through that asteroid field?" "Take the path 17 degrees. To starboard, Captain. There's a gravitational current that will speed us up and hide us from the enemy sensors." Chief Engineer Bobby Klein's voice came from the engine room. "Captain, the AI is using the ship systems in ways I've never seen. It's making the engines work better than they should." The Defiant slipped through the nebula like a ghost. While other fleets had blasted their way through, the human ship found paths that were already there. It used the natural currents in the gas clouds to move faster. It hid behind asteroids and struck the fake enemies from directions they didn't expect. "Sir," said Weapons Officer Danny Ross, "Charlie is showing me target points I never would have seen." "It's like the AI can see the future." "In a way it can," Jake replied. "It's calculating thousands of possibilities every second. It knows where the enemies will be before they know it themselves." The fake enemy ships were programmed to fight like real ones. They were smart, fast, and dangerous. They had destroyed many ships from the alien fleets, but they had never fought anything like the Defiant. The human ship didn't fight the enemies head-on. It used the nebula itself as a weapon. When a group of fake ships tried to surround the Defiant, Charlie guided it toward a gas cloud that was full of electrical energy. The enemy ships followed, and the electricity destroyed them. When another group of fake enemies tried to block the Defiant's path, the ship used a gravitational trick. It flew close to a dense asteroid and used its gravity to slingshot around. The sudden change in direction confused the enemies, and they crashed into each other. "This is amazing," said Dr. White, watching her instruments. "The AI is using physics in ways I've never seen. It's turning the entire nebula into a giant machine." The alien fleets had taken hours to get through the nebula. Most of them had lost ships to the fake enemies. Some had gotten lost in the gas clouds. A few had given up and turned back. The Defiant completed the test in 43 minutes. When the human ship emerged from the other side of the nebula, it was completely undamaged. It had destroyed every fake enemy it encountered. It had used less energy than any of the alien fleets. And it had done it all while making the other species look like amateurs. The watching aliens were silent. They couldn't understand what they had just seen. "How?" whispered the Etherian representative. "Impossible," said the Corvin admiral. "Ambassador." Zekthara's crystal body was flashing with anger. "It's a trick. It has to be a trick." But it wasn't a trick. It was something the galaxy had never seen before. Human creativity combined with artificial intelligence. The Defiant hadn't just completed the test. It had redefined what was possible. Jake looked at his crew. They were all smiling. They had just shown the galaxy what humans could do when they put their minds to it. "Well done, everyone," Jake said. "But this is just the beginning." He was right. The real test was about to begin, and it would make this look easy. The second test was supposed to be announced the next day. But something was wrong. The alien fleets that had been friendly before were now acting strange. Ships were moving into attack positions. Weapons were being charged. The mood in space had changed from competition to something much more dangerous. Captain Jake Morrison felt it too. He stood on the bridge of the Defiant, watching the other fleets through the window. "Something's not right here," he said. Commander Lisa Park was looking at her instruments. "Captain, I'm reading massive energy buildups from the Veltari ships. They're preparing for battle, not another test." Before Jake could respond, a new voice came over the communication system. It was Ambassador Zekthara, but she sounded different. Her voice was cold and full of confidence. "Attention all fleets," she said. "The time for games is over. You have all been brought here for a reason, but it was not the reason you were told." On the main screen, Zekthara's crystal form appeared. But behind her, Jake could see something that made his blood run. Cold. It was a space station, but it was bigger than anything he had ever seen. It was the size of a small planet, covered with weapons and glowing with power. "The territorial dispute was a lie," Zekthara continued. "We created it to bring all of your fleets to one place. We wanted to see how strong you really are. We wanted to test your weapons, your tactics, your courage. And now we know." The massive space station moved out from behind the planet Kepler 442b. It was black and silver, shaped like a giant spider with weapons instead of legs. Energy crackled around it like lightning. Smaller ships flew around it like angry insects. "This is Battle Station Omega 7, Zekthara said. "It has taken us 50 years to build. It is protected by shields that cannot be broken. It has weapons that can destroy entire worlds. And it is now aimed at all of you." Jake's crew was staring at the screen in shock. Dr. Corinne White was the first to speak. "Captain, the energy readings from that thing are off the charts. It's more powerful than all our fleets combined. The Veltari have been planning this for decades," Zekthara continued. "We studied all of your species. We learned your weaknesses. We built this station to be unstoppable. And now we give you a choice." The space station's weapons began to glow brighter. Around it, 500 Veltari warships took battle positions. Each one was sleek and deadly, with crystal hulls that reflected the light from the station's weapons. "You have 30 minutes to destroy Battle Station Omega 7, Zekthara said. "If you succeed, the Veltari will leave this system and never return. If you fail, we will use the station to conquer world after world. Your species will serve us or be destroyed." The communication ended, leaving the alien fleets in stunned silence. Then, slowly, the other species began to respond. The Zephyrian fleet was the first to move. Their 300 silver ships spread out in a perfect attack formation. The Corvin Empire's massive warships powered up their biggest guns. The Etherians gathered their energy weapons. Every species in the galaxy was preparing for the fight of their lives. "Captain," said Lieutenant Amy Rodriguez, "all fleets are requesting our position in the attack formation." Jake was quiet for a moment, thinking. He looked at the battle station. On the screen, it was huge, powerful, and protected by shields that had never been tested. The combined firepower of all the alien fleets might not be enough to destroy it. "Tell them we'll hang back and observe," Jake said finally. "Sir?" Commander Park looked confused. "Shouldn't we join the attack?" "Not yet, Lisa. Let's see what happens." First, the battle began with a sound like thunder. Thousands of ships opened fire at the same time. Laser beams, energy blasts, and missiles filled the space around the battle station. The light was so bright it hurt to look at. For 20 minutes, the alien fleets poured everything they had into the battle station's shields. The Zephyrian ships moved like dancers, firing from every angle. The Corvin warships used their massive guns to blast the station over and over. The Etherians sent waves of pure energy that lit up the darkness, but the shields held. The battle station didn't even seem to notice the attack. Its weapons began to fire back, sending beams of destruction that could cut a ship in half. Several alien vessels exploded in balls of fire. "The shields are at 98%, reported Dr. White. "All that firepower, and they barely scratched it." Jake nodded. He had expected this. The Veltari had been planning for 50 years. They would have made sure their station could survive anything the galaxy could throw at it. "Charlie," Jake said to the ship's AI, "what do you think?" "I have been analyzing the battle station structure, Captain," Charlie replied. "The shields are indeed very strong. But I have noticed something interesting about its position." "What's that?" "It is in orbit around the planet Kepler 442b. The gravitational forces involved are quite complex. The station is using its own gravity field to help maintain its position." Jake smiled. "Are you thinking what I'm thinking?" "I believe so, Captain. The station's greatest strength may also be its greatest weakness." With 5 minutes left, the alien fleets began to retreat. They had used up most of their weapons and energy. Many ships had been destroyed. The battle station's shields were still at 97%. The Veltari were celebrating. Zektharas' voice came over the communication system again. "You have failed. The galaxy will now bow to Veltari power." That's when the USS Defiant began to move. The human ship accelerated toward the battle station, but it wasn't firing any weapons. The alien fleets watched in confusion. What could one small ship do that thousands of larger ones could not? "Captain," said Weapons Officer Danny Ross, "shouldn't we be shooting at something?" "No, Danny. We're not going to destroy the battle station. We're going to let it destroy itself." The Defiant began to fly in a strange pattern around the battle station. It wasn't attacking. It wasn't trying to get away. It was dancing again, but this time the dance had a purpose that no one else could see. "Charlie," Jake said, "begin the gravity cascade protocol." "Gravity cascade protocol initiated." "Captain," the AI replied, "I am now creating controlled gravitational disturbances around the battle station." The Defiant's modified engines began to work in a new way. Instead of just pushing the ship forward, they were creating tiny changes in the gravity field around the battle station. Each change was small, but they were adding up. "Sir," said Navigator Helen Carter, "the station is starting to move out of its orbit." Jake smiled. "That's the idea, Helen. Keep us on course." The Veltari finally realized what was happening. The battle station was slowly being pulled toward the planet. Their weapons tried to target the Defiant, but the human ship was moving too fast and too unpredictably. "Warning," came Charlie's voice. The battle station's structural integrity is beginning to fail. The gravitational stress is exceeding its design limits. Jake looked at his crew. They were all working harder than they ever had before. The ship was pulling forces that would have torn apart any other vessel. But the Defiant was built by humans, and humans had learned to make things that could survive anything. All fleets, stand clear, Jake broadcast to the other ships. This is about to get very interesting. The battle station, which had seemed so powerful just minutes before, was now helpless. Its own massive size was working against it. The gravitational forces were tearing it apart from the inside. Within minutes, the station that had taken 50 years to build was nothing but debris falling toward the planet below. The Veltari fleet, suddenly without their ultimate weapon, surrendered without firing another shot. The galaxy stared in amazement at the single human ship that had done the impossible. The silence in space was complete. Thousands of alien ships floated motionless, their crews staring at the debris field that had once been the mighty battle station Omega-7. The Veltari fleet hung in space like defeated birds, their crystal hulls dim and lifeless. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the USS Defiant, watching the aftermath of what they had just done. His crew was tired but proud. They had saved the galaxy with their minds, not their weapons. "Captain," said Dr. Corinne White, looking at her instruments, "I'm reading massive gravitational disturbances throughout the system. What we just did has changed the gravity field of the entire area." Jake nodded. "That was the point, Corinne. Sometimes you have to break something to fix it." The communication system crackled to life. It was the voice of the Galactic Council's chief arbiter, an ancient being whose species had been keeping peace in the galaxy for thousands of years. "USS Defiant," the arbiter said. "Please report to the council chamber immediately. All species. Representatives wish to speak with you." Commander Lisa Park looked worried. "Captain, do you think we're in trouble?" "We did just destroy the biggest space station ever built." Jake smiled. "Lisa, we saved the galaxy. If that gets us in trouble, then the galaxy has bigger problems than we thought." An hour later, Jake and his senior crew stood in the Great Hall of the Galactic Council. The same aliens who had been laughing at humanity just days before were now looking at them with respect, fear, and curiosity. Ambassador Zekthara was there too, but now she was in chains made of energy. Her crystal body was cracked and dim. She had been the leader of the Veltari plot, and now she was a prisoner waiting for trial. "Human captain," she said, her voice weak but still angry. "How did you do it? How did one small ship destroy what? Thousands could not?" Jake stepped forward. He looked around the hall at all the different species. Some were shaped like insects. Others looked like living rocks. A few were made of pure energy. But they all had one thing in common. They were all waiting for his answer. "You made the same mistake everyone else made," Jake said. "You thought that bigger meant better. More ships, more weapons, more power. But you forgot something important." "What?" Zekthara asked. "You forgot to think." The hall was quiet. Jake continued. "Your battle station was impressive. It was huge, powerful, and well protected. But it was also trapped by its own size. The bigger something is, the more it's affected by gravity. We didn't need to break through your shields. We just needed to understand physics." Commander Park stepped forward. "Every species in the galaxy builds the same way. Bigger fleets, stronger weapons, more massive ships. But humans learned long ago that intelligence beats strength." The Corvin admiral, his forearms crossed, spoke up. "But how did you know it would work?" "The gravitational forces involved were enormous. One mistake and your ship would have been torn apart." Dr. White smiled. "That's where our AI came in. Charlie didn't just calculate the forces involved. It learned from every piece of data, every sensor reading, every gravitational wave. It became smarter with each second that passed. Lieutenant Amy Rodriguez added, "Our ship's computer isn't just a tool. It's a partner. It thinks with us, not just for us." The Etherian representative, floating in its ball of light, spoke in its musical voice. "But the risk was so great. How could you be sure you would succeed?" Chief Engineer Bobby Klein stepped forward. "We couldn't be sure, but that's what makes us human. We take risks that others won't take. We try things that others think are impossible." The Zephyrian commander, his silver skin gleaming, asked, "Your ship moved in ways that should have been impossible. How did you survive the gravitational forces?" Navigator Helen Carter answered, "We didn't fight the forces. We used them. Instead of trying to overcome gravity, we made it work for us. We danced with it." Jake looked at Zekthara. "Your battle station was designed to be unstoppable. But everything has a weakness. You just have to be smart enough to find it." The chief arbiter spoke from his high seat. "Captain Morrison, your species has shown us something today. You have shown us that there are solutions we never considered." "That's what humans do," Jake replied. "We look at problems differently. When everyone else sees a wall, we look for a door. When everyone else sees defeat, we look for opportunity." Weapons Officer Danny Ross added, "You all built hammers to break down walls. We built a key to unlock the door. The Mantis Collective." Representative, a creature that looked like a giant praying mantis, clicked its mandibles. "But why send only one ship? Surely more ships would have been safer." Jake smiled. "That's the question everyone keeps asking. The answer is simple. We didn't need more ships. More ships would have just gotten in the way." "How so?" asked the Crystal Being Ambassador. "Because what we did required precision, not power," Jake explained. "We needed to create exact gravitational disturbances at exact moments. Too many ships would have interfered with each other. One ship, with the right crew and the right AI, was perfect." Dr. White pulled out a small device and projected a hologram into the center of the hall. It showed the battle station and the gravitational fields around it. The station was held in place by a delicate balance of forces. All we had to do was tip that balance. The hologram showed the Defiant's flight path, spiraling around the station in a complex pattern. Each pass we made created a small gravitational wave. The waves added up, creating a cascade effect that pulled the station out of its stable orbit. Once the station started falling toward the planet, added Charlie's voice from the ship's communication system, the increasing gravitational stress began to tear apart its structure. The station's own mass became the weapon that destroyed it. The assembled aliens murmured among themselves. They were beginning to understand, but they were also beginning to worry. If humans could do this with one ship, what could they do with a fleet? The chief arbiter seemed to read their thoughts. "Captain Morrison, your demonstration today has raised important questions. Your species has shown capabilities that we did not know existed. How can we be sure that humanity will use these capabilities wisely?" Jake looked around the hall. "Because we're not conquerors. We're explorers. We're problem solvers. Today, the problem was the Veltari battle station. Tomorrow, it might be something else. But whatever it is, we'll find a way to deal with it." "And if other species threaten the peace?" asked the Corvin Admiral. "Then we'll deal with that too," Jake replied. "But we'd rather work with you than against you. The galaxy is big enough for all of us, if we're smart enough to share it." Zekthara made one last attempt to understand. "But your ship is so small. How can something so small be so powerful?" Jake smiled. "Because it's not about the size of the ship. It's about the size of the idea. And human ideas are bigger than any ship ever built." The trial of the Veltari began the next day. But everyone knew the real verdict had already been delivered. The galaxy had learned that humanity was not just another species to be ignored or conquered. They were something new, something dangerous, and something that would change everything. As the Defiant prepared to leave the Kepler 442 system, Jake looked out at the other fleets. They were all heading home, but he knew they would never forget what they had seen. The galaxy had asked why humanity sent only one ship. Now they knew the answer, and they would never ask that question again. 3 months had passed since the battle at Kepler 442. The galaxy was still talking about what had happened. The story of the single human ship that destroyed the Valtari battle station was told on every world, in every spaceport, in every military academy. Captain Jake Morrison sat in his ready room aboard the USS Defiant, reading reports from Earth. The ship was heading home after completing a diplomatic mission to the Outer Rim. The mission had been easy compared to what they had faced at Kepler 442. Captain came Lieutenant Amy Rodriguez's voice over the intercom. "We're receiving a priority message from Earth Command." Jake stood up and walked to the bridge. The main screen showed Admiral Patricia Hayes, the head of Earth's space fleet. She was a tough woman with gray hair and sharp eyes. "Jake," she said, "I wanted to congratulate you and your crew personally. What you did out there has changed everything for humanity." "Thank you, Admiral," Jake replied. "We just did our job. Your job was to represent Earth in a military demonstration. You ended up saving the galaxy from conquest. I'd say you went above and beyond." Jake smiled. "That's what humans do, Realm. We find a way." The Admiral's expression became more serious. "Jake, I need to tell you something. Since Kepler 442, we've received over 300 requests for military cooperation from other species. They all want to know how we did what we did." Commander Lisa Park stepped forward. "Are we sharing our technology with them?" "Some of it," the Admiral replied. "But they're not really interested in our technology. They want to understand how we think. They want to learn our methods." Dr. Corinne White looked up from her station. "Admiral, we've been analyzing the data from the battle. What we did shouldn't have been possible with our level of technology. But our AI made the difference." "That's right, Corinne," the Admiral said. "The combination of human creativity and artificial intelligence is something the galaxy has never seen before, and it's something they're very interested in." Jake nodded. "What about the Valtari? What happened to them?" "They've been stripped of their military fleet and placed under galactic supervision. Ambassador Zeke Thara was sentenced to life imprisonment. The rest of their species is learning to live peacefully with their neighbors." The communication ended, and Jake looked around at his crew. They had all changed since Kepler 442. They carried themselves differently now. They knew they were part of something bigger than just one ship. "Charlie," Jake said to the AI, "what do you think about all this attention?" "I find it fascinating, Captain," Charlie replied. "The other species are trying to understand us by studying our technology. But they're missing the point." "What's the point?" "The point is that we work together. Human intuition and artificial intelligence, creativity and logic, emotion and calculation. We're not just using tools, we're partners." "Chief Engineer Bobby," Klein's voice came from the engine room. "Captain, we're getting some interesting readings from the long-range sensors. There's a ship approaching, but it's not human." Jake frowned. "What kind of ship?" "It's Etherian, sir. And they're sending a message." The main screen flickered, and the image of an Etherian appeared. It was a ball of soft, golden light that pulsed gently as it spoke. Its voice was like music. "Captain Morrison," the Etherian said, "I am Ambassador Lumina. We have been searching for your ship for many days. What can we do for you, Ambassador?" Jake asked. "We need your help," Lumina replied. There is a problem that our people cannot solve alone. We have tried for months, but we keep failing. We believe that human thinking might find a solution. Jake exchanged glances with his crew. What kind of problem? The screen changed to show a star system with 7 planets. One of the planets was glowing strangely, with ribbons of energy surrounding it. This is the Thera system, Lumina explained. The 4th planet is home to a young species called the Therians. They are still developing, still learning. But something has gone wrong. The image zoomed in on the planet. Jake could see that the energy ribbons were actually some kind of barrier surrounding the entire world. A mining accident has created an energy field around their planet, Lumina continued. The field is growing stronger every day. Soon, it will collapse inward and destroy everything on the planet's surface. Billions of innocent lives will be lost. Dr. White studied the readings. Captain, this looks like a cascading energy failure. The field is feeding on itself, getting stronger as it collapses. We have tried everything we can think of, Lumina said. We sent our best scientists, our most powerful ships. Nothing works. The field deflects our energy weapons and absorbs our attempts to neutralize it. Jake thought for a moment. Why come to us? We're just one ship. Because you think differently, Lumina replied. At Kepler 442, you solved the problem that no one else could solve. You found a solution that no one else could see. We hope you can do it again. Commander Park looked concerned. Captain, if we can't solve this, an entire species dies. And if we try and fail, we might die too, added Weapons Officer Danny Ross. Jake looked around at his crew. He could see the determination in their eyes. They had faced the impossible before, and won. They could do it again. Charlie, Jake said, what do you think? I am analyzing the data the Etherians have provided, the AI replied. The energy field is indeed complex, but I detect patterns that suggest a solution might be possible. Set course for the Thera system, Jake ordered. Maximum speed. Navigator Helen Carter's hands moved over her controls. Yes, sir. We'll be there in 6 hours. As the Defiant jumped to hyperspace, Jake thought about what they were about to attempt. The Etherians were one of the most advanced species in the galaxy. If they couldn't solve this problem, it must be truly difficult. But that was what humans did best. They solved the unsolvable. 6 hours later, the Defiant dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Thera system. The sight that greeted them was both beautiful and terrifying. The 4th planet was surrounded by ribbons of blue and white energy that twisted and danced like living things. Charlie, Jake said, start analyzing the energy field. I want to know everything about it. Analysis beginning, Captain, Charlie replied. Initial readings suggest the field is caused by an interaction between the planet's magnetic field and exotic matter from the mining accident. Dr. White was studying her instruments. Captain, the field is definitely collapsing. At current rates, it will reach critical collapse in 18 hours. And when it collapses? Jake asked. Everything on the planet dies, she replied quietly. Etherian ship was waiting for them near the outer edge of the system. Ambassador Lumina appeared on the screen again. Captain Morrison, thank you for coming. Our scientists are ready to share all the data we have collected. For the next 2 hours, Jake and his crew studied everything the Etherians had learned about the energy field. It was incredibly complex, fed by forces that most species barely understood. It's like a knot, Jake said finally. The more you pull on it, the tighter it gets. Exactly, agreed Charlie. Every attempt to break the field from the outside only makes it stronger. Lieutenant Rodriguez looked up from her station. Sir, what if we don't try to break it from the outside? Jake turned. To her, what do you mean? What if we go inside the field? What if we attack the problem from within? Commander Park shook her head. Amy, The field would destroy any ship that tried to enter it. Not necessarily, said Charlie. I have been studying the field structure. There are gaps, moments when the energy density drops. A ship might be able to slip through. Dr. White looked excited. And once inside, we could target the source directly. Instead of fighting the field, we could remove what's causing it. Jake smiled. Once again, his crew was thinking outside the box. Charlie, what are the chances of success? 43%, Captain, the AI replied. But that assumes we can modify the ship's shields to survive the entry. Chief Engineer Klein's voice came over the intercom. Captain, I think I can boost the shields enough to get us through. But we'll only have one shot at this. Jake made his decision. Do it, Bobby. Prepare the ship for entry into the energy field. Ambassador. Lumina's voice came over the communication system. Captain, what you are proposing is extremely dangerous. If you fail, your ship will be destroyed. If we don't try, billions of people die, Jake replied. That's not acceptable. For the next 4 hours, the crew of the Defiant worked harder than they ever had before. They modified the shields, recalibrated the engines, and prepared for the most dangerous mission of their lives. Charlie, Jake said as they approached the energy field. Are you ready for this? I am ready, Captain, the AI replied. But I must warn you. Once we enter the field, I will be operating at the very limits of my capabilities. I may not be able to protect us if something goes wrong. Then we'll just have to make sure nothing goes wrong, Jake said. The Defiant approached the swirling wall of energy. At the last second, Charlie found a gap, and the ship slipped through like a needle through cloth. Inside the field, everything was chaos. Energy storms raged around them. Lightning crackled across the ship's hull. The very space around them seemed to twist and bend. Shields at 60% and falling, reported Klein. There, said Dr. White, pointing at her instruments. The source is on the planet's surface. It's a mining platform that's still active. Jake could see it now. A massive M